Hi everybody, my name is Bethany with Craft with Bethany, and this week's video has been a little bit of an experimental project for me, but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we're going to make one together. I'm going to show you one that I made originally, and then I'm going to make a slightly different pattern with the one we're going to do on camera today. So you can decide how you want to approach this, but I'm really excited about it. I am a big fan of clear phone cases. I like to add stickers or decorate them in different ways, but I thought, why can't I add some fabric in between my phone in this case? And if I'm going to add fabric, I should do something a little fun, so why don't we quilt a little piece to go in my phone case? So we're going to make a little quilted phone case. Super cute. And how fun would this be to change it out for every season? So I chose some fall colors because even though it's still summer and August and it's hot outside, I am ready for fall. So we're channeling our fall vibes with this little project today. But come Christmas, I'm sure I'll change it out for some Christmas fabrics and then make it just a fun little quick afternoon project I do every so often to do something fun. I think this is also a great use of scrap fabric. So how stinking cute is this? All right, so we're gonna make this today. I will be honest with you. I made this one and it almost fits my phone. My seam allowances are a little bulky on the sides here and here, so this side piece doesn't want to wrap all the way around my phone. I do have a magnet, like one of the circle magnets in the back of my phone, so I'm going to try taking that off. I'm sure that'll help it fit. If it's still a little bulky, I can trim down the seam allowance here, just like the bulk of it, along these side seams. Here, here, and here, here, and here. So it just fits a little more flush. It fits on my phone. My phone still works. It's nothing like that, but I just want it to fit perfectly all the way around because, again, my phone case is there to protect my phone as well. So the version I'm going to do today, instead of doing these teeny tiny half square triangles, which you are more than welcome to do, these are were cut down to 2-inch half square triangles and then sewn together. Instead of doing this today, I'm just going to do stripes all the way across. That way my edges don't have a seam allowance on them. So we'll see how that works today in that pattern and see how it fits on the phone. But let's get started and jump right into making this fun little quilted phone case. Okay, so let's talk about some things that we need. Obviously, we need a clear phone case. You can get these off Amazon pretty cheaply. This one's kind of a little squish, so it's got some give to it. But get one that fits your phone. So I got one that fits my iPhone. You're going to need some fabric. So I've already cut a couple of the prints I'm using into 1-inch strips. So you're going to need 1-inch strips. You can use whichever fabrics you want. You can mix and match as many colors as you want, but just know that when we sew these together, you know, it doesn't take a lot of fabric to fill this phone case up, okay? So we're going to work with some smaller pieces. If you are going to do something with the half square triangles, I actually recommend making them bigger triangles, sew them together, and then cut them down to size. So I think these were originally like 2.5 to 3-inch squares that I had already cut and had left over from a previous project. So I just trimmed them down to 2-inch squares and then they sewed up nicely. So anyways, we're going to cut some strips, some 1-inch strips. So you're going to need a ruler. There's different kinds of rulers you can use for that. Obviously some fabric scissors. You're going to need some sort of fabric pen or marker. I'm using a friction pen because these heat away and will disappear with heat with my iron. But you can use a washable. Honestly, it's just to trace out the shape of the phone case. So if you cut right along the inside of that line, you probably won't even see it anyway. So if you use a regular pen and cut it away, you won't even notice. You're going to need a rotary cutter, or at least I recommend one for cutting your strips. It's going to be a lot easier. And then the last thing you're going to need is some sort of stabilizer. It's really a interfacing. So it's a one-sided fusible interfacing. This is a pretty lightweight interfacing. And you're going to put this on the back. It's going to give your fabric, once you piece it all together, some structure and stability. It really doesn't add much to the thickness at all. It's going to help kind of keep your seam allowances down, making that just kind of fit into the case a little better. And so it's going to kind of hold it all together a little nicer, in my opinion. Now, you'll see here that I did not sew around this, and it has frayed a little bit. And that's part of it because I have taken it in and out of this case several times now. But I'll be honest, once it's in the case and around your phone, you don't even notice the raw edges. Unless you were like looking at it from the very edge or side or something. But even then, I don't really notice. You can see the strings here, but when the phone's in there, it gets all squished down. So you don't really notice the raw edges, but if that bothers you, you can finish off the sides if you want. Just know that anything you add to this is going to create bulk. And we want to use as little bulk as possible. So first thing I'm going to do is cut a couple of more fabrics into 1-inch squares, or 1-inch strips, I mean. And I find it easiest just to line it up the straight edge of my fabric with my mat. And this ruler is a little shorter than my fabric piece here. Let me go get a different ruler. All right, I got my longer ruler. And then I am going to cut 2 strips out of each color. That's not to say that I'll use 2 strips of each color. I know I won't, but it's good to have a backup. I don't know about you guys, but cutting for quilting or piecing is my least favorite thing to do when it comes to this type of craft. So I try to get it all done in one swoop, and if I can cut a little extra in case I need it for later, it just helps me get through the project faster. But that's my own personal experience and opinion. Some people really enjoy the cutting process. That is just not my favorite thing to do. I think it's just because it's has to be so precise. This is a phone case. I guess it really doesn't have to be. But most quilting is pretty precise, and I don't have the patience for that. So alright, so we've got our pieces. So the next part is the fun part where we get to kind of decide what order we want these to go in. So I kind of have 2 that are similar in color. So probably going to go tan, green, this like orangey brown. Maybe I'll go light, and then orangey brown. What do we think of that? I think I might go that route. And you can kind of tell if that's going to work or not because you can kind of place it over it. Now, we are obviously going to have some seam allowances, so that's the next part, is to sew all of these strips together. And I'm going to probably line them all up at the top edge here. That way when I sew them up, I know I have enough to fill this. Now, if I sew them up and it's too narrow, we can add another piece or whatever we need to do, and that's where we kind of figure it out as we go. And this will vary based on the size of the pieces you choose to do. So it's totally up to you, but this is where I'm starting. And so I'm going to sew these up and head over to the machine, and we'll show you how I do that. Alright, so I have my Singer machine that I'm using today. I have it set to a straight stitch, and I did put on a 1/4-inch piecing foot, which is ideal for quilt piecing because it gives you that easy 1/4-inch seam allowance that you need. So we're going to use a straight stitch along one side and do 1/4-inch seam allowance. So the easy thing to do when you line your fabric up is to just line the edge of your fabric up with the right edge of your foot. And we're just going to straight stitch. Alright, so when we open this up, the this is what we have. So I'm going to take the next piece. I'm just going to kind of finger press this down. When we're done sewing all the strips together, I will go over to the iron and give it a really good press. But for the sake of time and having to keep getting up and down, I am just going to attach my next piece. We'll press it all at the end. Since this is an easy pattern, we're not doing anything crazy or half square triangles or anything like that. That just makes it a little easier to just keep going. There we go. All right, I'm going to do a couple more pieces here, because once you start adding these together and you use your seam allowance, you're left with ½ inch. And we need to get across several inches. I believe my phone case, and they're all different, everybody's phones are different. I do not have like the max phone or anything. So if I did, obviously I would need to do more strips and use more fabric. So again, it's probably going to look a little different than on your phone than my phone in that regard, but that's kind of the fun of it. There we go. I'm going to get one more green piece. This is why we like to cut extra pieces. Now, if you have the same iPhone as I do, which I believe I have the 14 Pro, then I have linked my case that I got, the clear case, in the description below. Now that 14 Pro clear case, that same company makes them in other iPhone models, but also other phone models altogether. So you can click on that link, even if that's not the phone that you have, and you can go look and find the phone that you do have and get one if you need one. So I'm going to grab my phone case, and this is cutting it pretty close even after I iron it. I want a little extra to be able to like trace it and trim it out. So I'm going to add another white piece and another brown piece. All right, so now I have all my strips sewn together. This is definitely wide enough for my phone case. Definitely wide enough because I haven't even pressed this yet. So this is working out really great. So what I'm going to do now is go over to the iron, and I'm going to open all of these seams and press them so that they are like that, nice and open. If you press it all to one side, it puts all the bulk in one area. This is one of those projects where we're really pressing is key, and we make sure that we press these all open, all of these seams, and give it a nice good press. Once we're done pressing, then we're going to use our fusible interfacing to fuse it to the back of this piece of fabric, and then we're going to trace out our phone shape. So I'll meet you back at the iron once I'm done pressing. Okay, so I've pressed all my seams open, so it almost looks like the back is the front now, but this is the front, and this is the back. And so what we're going to do now is take our interfacing Now you'll notice on interfacing there's a dull side and there's a shiny side. The shiny side is the adhesive, and we want to lay that down on top of the back. So the shiny side is on the back of the fabric down, so it'll fuse to the back. Now I don't want this to fuse to my board here, my pressing station. So I actually am going to flip it over. So now my shiny side is up, but my right side is up. And I am going to take a piece of just some scrap fabric I have left over from my last project I was working on. So it is Halloween. And I'm just going to lay it on top and press. So what I'm doing now is fusing the interfacing to the back of the fabrics that we stitched together. Now it is going to be stuck to the back side of this fabric, but it'll peel right off. So now, and if I need to, I can press this again. I just don't want to touch my iron to this either. I don't want that fusible adhesive to get on the faceplate of my iron. So that's something else to keep in mind. That's why we use that protective fabric. And so now we have this. So now what we're going to do is trace out our phone case and then cut out the shape and pretty much put it in and we'll be done. Okay, so here's our piece. It's looking good. It's okay if it's a little crooked or something because we're going to be cutting out a shape and it's totally fine. So what we're going to do is line up where we want this to go. And if I kind of position it right, I kind of can get almost the repeat almost twice except for one of these ends. So like I could get here or here. I kind of like the darker colors for the fall. And see how they kind of got pressed at an angle. So we're just going to turn the case at an angle. And the easiest way to do this is to flip this over and trace out the shape of the case using your friction pen or water-soluble marker or whatever you want to use. And I'm just going to line it up like that. And we're just going to draw along the edge. This will end up being a little bigger than you need it to be, so we will be trimming it down a little more once we cut it out and put it in to fit, but it's pretty straightforward. You also, if you have the space open for cameras, we obviously want to cut that out because we want to still be able to use our cameras to take all of the fun sewing, crafting project photos. If you do make this project, I would love to see your phone case. So please share it on social media and tag Craft with Bethany so I can see it. I'd love to see which fabrics you use, which pattern design you use. If you went with something fun or something simple, or if you just went with one solid piece, you can do that as well. So now I'm going to use a really good pair of fabric scissors and I'm just going to cut right along the inside of that line. Because like I said, it's going to still be a little bigger than we need it to be from where we traced it. Definitely need to make sure we follow along the curve here. There we go. Now you'll notice real quick, you can see this kind of coming up because I've cut along here and we've got all these seams. At this point it might be smart for me to go press it again, let it cool, make sure it's completely fused, because this is really going to help prevent it from fraying so bad and the seams separating. So I'm going to go press it real quick. That looks really cute. I'm going to go press it one more time and then we'll cut this out. Okay, what do you notice now about my piece? since I pressed it. My opening for my camera lens disappeared because I used a friction pin that goes away when you apply heat. So when you iron it, it disappears. So I'm going to place this back down and draw this on. So I can cut it out. All right, so there's my piece. So the next step is to place it in, and we can already tell it's a little too big because when you trace it from the outside, it's still not going to fit quite on the inside. So you're probably going to have to cut it down a little bit, but you can tell that it's really stinking cute already. Like, look at how cute that is. Now, one option is if you have the iPhones with this big square here, you can choose to just cut that whole square off, which is what I did on this one because I had a lot more seams. So it was a little bulkier, so it really did not fit here. For this one, I'm going to try to trim it down on the sides so that I can leave that piece. So give me just a second. Let's see how that goes. It's still a little too tall, so I think what I need to do is take more off the bottom. I don't want to take a lot off of the top because these pieces are so thin already, so I'm going to trim a little more off the bottom. You just want to take a little bit at a time because you cannot add it back. You'd have to start all over if you get it too small. We're getting closer. I just need to take a little more off the bottom. Now, one thing I'm noticing here is I've got it to fit in this space. A couple things I'm noticing is I might want to do a little bit more trim here along this inside. And I'm also noticing that this side is rolling up onto that side. And we don't really want that. We want it to kind of go this way, which means I may need to take some, because we have a power button right here on the side of this phone. So we definitely don't want to cover that up. So this has got to lay pretty flat. It's not going to lay like up on the sides of this clear case. It's going to lay pretty flat in here. So from that, we might decide we need to take some off of the opposite side. So let's kind of, this is where you just kind of have to have some patience and just finagle it, and your phone might be easier than my phone, and that's fine. But we do need to take some off this side. So I am going to cut this side, and we might actually end up losing this whole little brown section, which is okay. There we go. And once my phone's in there, this will all get like pushed open. But that looks really nice. I really like how this turned out. I think it's super cute. Let me know your thoughts. Do you like the half square triangles or do you like the stripes? So the next test is going to be putting my phone in here, but I think this is going to fit because I can already tell, like, look how thin this is along this edge because there's no seams along the edge, whereas this is like way thicker with these side seams. So I'm really excited. I hope you give this a try. Let me know what you think. And if you do make one of these, please tag me at Craft with Bethany on social media so I can see your phone case creation. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you do enjoy it, please share it with a friend, leave a comment, like, and be sure you subscribe to my channel because I'm releasing new projects and tutorials and videos every week. See you next time.